What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're talking about the most important skill for improving your life. If you want any type of fulfillment or happiness in your life, or if you have any type of fulfillment and happiness, it has come brought to you in part by this skill that you apparently at least have a little bit of. But I want to make you more conscious of this skill, even if you have it, because focusing on it is going to bring you so much success, so much happiness, so much fulfillment. This skill has been scientifically proven to be associated with all of those good things that I just mentioned, and those who lack it are more likely to be without success. They're more likely to be with higher incarceration, and they're more likely to just have lower cognitive capabilities altogether. So, what is this skill? This skill is getting delayed gratification versus instant gratification. And another way to phrase that really is discipline or self-control. But I like this idea of framing it in the sense that it's focusing on delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. Because the enemy of self-control and discipline is instant gratification. So it's important to capture that in the picture of this skill as well. So that's why I'm going with the overall title of this skill being going after delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. So I mentioned that this is scientifically proven to be one of the most important skills that you can have to attain any type of success in your life. And I'm going to back that up right now by telling you about the Marshmallow experiment that they did at Stanford University. So what they did is they got children and they would put them in a room and they would give them a marshmallow and they would say, okay, here's one marshmallow. I'm going to leave the room and come back. If the marshmallow is still here when I come back, you can have two. But it still has to be here. If you eat it, you're only going to get the one marshmallow. So what they did is they got a whole bunch of kids and they did this test with them. They collected the data. They had some kids that waited, various amounts of time to get the second marshmallow, and some kids just ate the first marshmallow. What they did now with this data is they followed up with the children that were a part of this experiment years later into their teenage years and even early adulthood. And they asked their parents a series of questions and they asked the children a series of questions, and they just took a look at their life in general and gathered more data from that. And the conclusion that they were able to draw from this experiment and from following up with the children later in their life is that the children who waited to get the second marshmallow had more success in virtually all areas of their life. And the children who didn't wait and the children who ate the first marshmallow had higher incarceration rates, like I said, and just overall lower cognition and lower success rates in all other areas of their life. So this experiment went on to become one of the most important experiments in psychology. You might have actually heard of it because it's so famous. And this is very significant because instant gratification and delayed gratification, or practicing self-control, isn't just relevant for the children waiting for the marshmallows. It's relevant for you in every area of your life. Like I said, it was a predictability, or it was a predictor rather, of success in virtually all other areas of their lives. You have a chance every single day to practice delayed gratification or going after the instant gratification instead. You see, we have this theme presented to us in almost all walks of life where we can take one of two paths. The path of instant gratification, where the choice we make is going to be exciting in the moment and it's going to be very stimulating, or the path of delayed gratification, where we're not going to get that excitement and that stimulation right now, and we might actually have to do some hard work that we don't want to do, but in the future, the rewards that we're going to get are going to be far more exciting, far more stimulating, and just far more beneficial overall than the instant gratification. So here's a few examples where that's the case and where it's very evident that going down the path of delayed gratification is far better for you. Eating unhealthy foods that are high in salt, sugar, and fat versus eating healthy foods. Choosing to be sedentary and titillate yourself with entertainment such as television and video games versus exercising. Choosing to entertain yourself with television and video games once more versus reading and educating yourself. Indulging in pornography rather than developing real sexual relationships. Avoiding difficult conversations versus having difficult conversations. Avoiding your problems and your fears versus facing your problems and your fears head on and therefore finding solutions to them. Working a job because it cuts you a paycheck versus spending a couple years where you're developing skills in an area that you're passionate about. And you might not get a paycheck in those few years while you're developing yourself in that area, but then a few years later, you get to do what you love as a career and earn money from it. So what all of these examples have in common, and that's just a few, there's so many more, but those are some of the main ones. What all of those have in common is that the instant gratification, the chocolate cake, is very exciting in the moment. It gives you sensory pleasure. But you might go on to regret it, and it might have some consequences that you don't really find as favorable. For example, eating the chocolate cake is going to give you some inflammation. It's going to, get you being overweight. Stimulating yourself with the video games and the television more often than you probably should is going to result in the same thing, where you might, because you're so sedentary, become overweight. Your body's not going to like the fact that you're not moving and exercising it because it's meant to move and exercise. Versus eating healthy and exercising, it's not so exciting in the moment at first. If you practice those good habits, it actually does become exciting. But in either case, it's not going to be as exciting as maybe eating chocolate cake or playing the newest video game. But down the road, you are going to be so much more happy and fulfilled that you made that choice. So that's what all of those examples have in common. So you can really see where this principle of choosing delayed gratification versus instant gratification and being able to exercise the discipline and the self-control to do so is really like the most important skill that you can have in your life. Think about all those examples that I just gave. If you're routinely and habitually choosing the choice that is more instantly gratifying, your whole life is going to be so negatively impacted by that. You might become obese. You might have a whole bunch of health problems. You might not be able to move the way that you can. You might not be as knowledgeable as you'd like to be. You might be working a job that you don't actually like. You might not have good, healthy relationships with your friends and your family. You might not even be able to make a lot of friends versus on the flip side, you're going to have a great body that's going to be able to move very functionally. You're going to feel great in that body. You're going to be very knowledgeable. You're going to have a lot of skills that's going to help you do whatever it is that you might want to do in life and in a workforce. And whatever it is that you are doing, you're going to be passionate about because you have the choice to do that thing you're passionate about. You're going to feel good not only look good on the outside, but you're going to feel good on the inside because you make the delayed gratification, healthy food choices. The list just goes on where this is going to yield you so much more success in your life if you can practice delayed gratification versus instant gratification. But the question is, how do we do that? How do you that eating the chocolate cake isn't good and that you should probably eat the chicken, rice, and broccoli, but how do you go about doing that? Because the problem isn't that you don't know which choice is better. The problem is you don't really have the discipline, the self-control to make the right choice. Well, there's a few different ways that you can go about developing this skill of practicing delayed gratification and having that discipline to do so. The first technique that you can use to develop this skill, and arguably the most powerful, is developing a meditation practice. This is just one of the countless reasons that meditation is so good for you. See, meditation is going to make you better at observing your mental activity. And you're going to become better at observing your impulses to act on the instantly gratifying things rather than just unconsciously acting on them. So instead, you can observe the way that your mind is turning its wheels and thinking, oh yeah, eat that chocolate cake. Oh yeah, watch the next episode instead of going to have your workout. And you can just observe those tendencies that you have. And then you can consciously choose to make the better choice. See, awareness alone is curative. So once you realize, oh, that's just an impulse to stimulate myself, to get some sensory pleasure, but that's not actually going to pay me dividends in the long run. That's not going to be the choice that I'm happy I made. And you're going to be able to make the choice that you're going to be proud of yourself for making. And that's the choice that's going to be the one that's more of a delayed gratification, but it's much more worth it. So that's the first and most powerful technique, in my opinion, to develop the skill of going for delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. The second technique is kind of along the same lines of meditation. It involves becoming more aware, but this is just a bit of an exercise where you're going to contemplate. I want you to actually think about the fact that all of your actions, even your thoughts, but especially your actions in life, are very habitual. You do most of the same things on a daily basis. Take the example of scrolling on social media. That's something that takes up, on average, 4.5 hours or something ridiculous of the average North American's time in 2021. I think that statistic is fairly accurate. I might be off a little bit by a year or by a half hour, but it's something crazy like that. So take that example and think about, you're probably somebody who finds themselves doing that. Think about how much of a habit that is. You're just on autopilot and you find yourself scrolling, and then 20 minutes goes by and it's oh, I've just been scrolling for 20 minutes. Or in some extreme cases, maybe a few hours goes by. And it's you don't even know where the time went because you were just habitually, unconsciously scrolling. So start considering the fact that so many of your actions are habits. And then analyze which of these actions and these habits are actually serving me and which ones are more just instantly gratifying and aren't actually serving me in the long run. And you'll find a lot of the things that you're doing are going to be the ones that are instantly gratifying and that aren't serving you. And now you can consciously go about recognizing, okay, this is just a really bad habit, and I want to replace my bad habits with good habits. And the way that you can do that, and the good habits, by the way, are going to be the ones that are more delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. So like I said, exercising rather than watching television, reading a book rather than watching video games, eating the healthy food rather than eating the unhealthy food, working on your business rather than procrastinating, getting that project done. You get the point. There's a million different examples here, but so often it's just habitual. Even procrastination itself tends to be a habit that a lot of people have. So once you recognize, oh, I have a lot of bad habits, okay, I want to replace them with good habits. That's a way to shift the paradigm that you have around the actions that you take. And that's an important new paradigm to shift into. And it's very accurate too. Like I said, just contemplate the actions and the things that you do in a day and recognize how many of them are habitual. Humans are very habitual creatures. Now that you recognize this and you know this, the question is, how do I go about shifting my bad habits to good habits? Well, there's a few different tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you here. You want to make the bad habits less accessible and the good habits more obvious and more accessible. Because convenience is everything for human beings, let's face it. We're creatures of convenience just as much as we are creatures of habit. So if we have healthy food in our fridge, food that's going to make our body feel good and that we're going to be happy that we ate later on in the day, and we don't have any of that instantly gratifying unhealthy food, we're going to be more likely to eat the healthy food just because it requires so much less effort. So making your bad habits and the more instantly gratifying choices less accessible and making your good habits and the delayed gratification more accessible is just going to naturally help you shift into making better choices and going for the choices that are the delayed gratification rather than the instant gratification, just for the sake of convenience. So for example, something that I do is keep my fridge stocked with healthier foods because I'm not going to, even if I have a craving for some like potato chips or something, unless I actually have potato chips in my cupboard, I'm not going to go to the store and get them. I'm going to eat the carrots and the hummus that are in my fridge. Another thing that I do to make the good habits more accessible is I leave the book that I'm reading right on my desk. That's right in front of my face. I'm going to walk by it. I'm going to see it out. I'm going to be much more likely to read it. You know, leave the yoga mat out on the floor beside your bed, so you know when you wake up in the morning, there's a visual cue that you can, you know, stretch your body and maybe do a little exercise before you start your day. So the list goes on in ways that you can kind of like design your environment to be in your favor, but that's just one concept, one little trick that you can use to make better choices. Another thing I do that you can do too that I find really helps is I keep a good habits calendar. So this is acting on the principle of make it rewarding. We're going to do things that reward us. We get some positive reinforcement for the things that we do, then we're going to be more likely to do it again. So I have my good habits calendar, and it has every day of the year, and I have my 5 good habits that I like to do every day. I like to take a cold shower right when I wake up. I like to meditate. I like to read a book. I like to work on my business, and I like to exercise. Those are my 5 habits that I want to do without question every single day. And every single day that I do all 5 of those, I get a tick through the day on that calendar. And then I want to keep the streak going. I don't want to lose my streak of ticks, consecutive days in a row that I've done all my good habits. So that becomes very rewarding for me, especially if you're just starting to implement some new good habits. It's important that you find some way to make it rewarding, because it probably won't feel intrinsically rewarding just yet. Once you've developed it to a habit, and a habit is something that you really don't even think about doing. Like I don't even think about doing those 5 things anymore. Those are things that I just do every single day without question. And they feel intrinsically rewarding now. And all good habits will, but in the beginning, while you're really getting over that hump of, oh, this feels really difficult to keep up and to do, it's important to find a way to reward yourself for doing those things. So this calendar is one way. You can also find other ways to reward yourself. Maybe after you exercise, you can watch 20 minutes of TV. I do recommend not rewarding yourself with something that's contradictory to your good habits. So maybe don't go eating a bowl of ice cream after your workout, because that's kind of a contradiction. Maybe you're trying to lose some weight and get into shape. You don't want to go eating ice cream after your workout. So find a way to reward yourself in a way that's not contradictory to your good habit. So those are some little habit tips and tricks that I use in my day-to-day life. But for more on understanding habits and for more tricks that you can use to implement the good habits and get rid of the bad ones, I highly recommend this book here, Atomic Habits by James Clear, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. I actually got those methods that I just spoke about from this book. It's a very good book. You'll probably be engulfed in it. You'll find it really fascinating. It's a very easy read, so I highly recommend it. I also recommend checking out my video, How Human Nature Works Against Your Goals, and how to get it to work for them instead. You can check that out right here. And I also recommend checking out my video, Understanding Habits and Your Short Attention Span in the Age of Technology. Both of these videos, and that one is right here as well, somewhere up there. I'll put the card. Both of these videos are going to give you more understanding around the way that your habits and your attention span works, and they are very relevant to this topic of choosing delayed gratification rather than instant gratification. These are all things that you can implement in your life today. They're very practical. You can sit down even for as little as like 10 minutes a day. I recommend, 20 minutes to half an hour, but you can start with as little as 10 minutes a day and of meditation, and that will get you recognizing and becoming more conscious of the way that your mind works and the way that you just kind of want to stimulate yourself for that sensory pleasure, but that's not rewarding in the long run. You can contemplate the way that you kind of make those choices and ask yourself, does that actually serve me? Like, does this actually make me happy? And you'll probably find that the answer is no. When you're on your phone, when you're scrolling endlessly, or when you're making the unhealthy choices, the choices that are more instantly gratifying, in the long run, you know that those choices are not serving you, that those aren't choices that are making you happy. In moderation, sure, but if you're consistently making those instantly gratifying choices, you know that it's not in your best interest and it actually kind of makes you feel like shit. But don't take my word for it. Contemplate that for yourself, and I'm sure you will stumble upon that for yourself. Like I said, very easy, practical things that you can do right now that are going to pay you dividends because you are going to be better at choosing delayed gratification versus instant gratification. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a like. Subscribe to my channel for more valuable content like this. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Thanks for watching.